Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's version of Live with Lussetto. We've got kind of a hodgepodge of guys here tonight that probably go around and let everybody introduce themselves. But basically, it's a bunch of old pullers that I pulled with from back. Man, well, I'm Doug. We talked even early 2000s for most of us.
Yeah, 99.
So I guess I'll just go around. We've got Corey Snyder from Wisconsin. Dan's just here because he's, Dan. And we've got Doug Baird and Kurt Paulson and Terry Mammon.
We got Brian Cobb over here too.
Brian Cobb. I forgot about Brian. He's a lone short tire guy here. So, we might just start and have you guys kind of introduce yourself, where you're from, and what you pulled back in the day and when you got started. Corey, I might start with you because unfortunately, we're in and out at different times.
Yeah. Well, I'm probably the oldest guy in this room, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I started pulling at a young age, but running Oliver 880 light super stock. She's probably back in early 90s, I guess it was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but then started venturing out to Outlaws in Iowa State, out in that area, probably around 99, 2000, somewhere, probably 99, I think it was. And pulled quite a few years out west of Mississippi with that group. Kind of fell in love with everybody out there. It was a great time. So,
sure.
Yeah, so.
Okay. And Doug, I'll let you go next.
Oh boy, early 2000s probably. First had a 460 diesel engine in it, and then we went to it was MXM sheet metal with 656 rear end. Everybody said we were starting to build a little bit of power. I better get rid of the 460 rear end.
Yeah.
And then we kind of sold all that stuff off. We had another frame and 706 rear end that was all lightened up. We were going to build a light 706 chassis and sold everything and ended up going to Maryland and getting my heavy super.
Okay. And that's what retired you for a while?
Yep.
Okay. And Kurt, I don't know if we have enough time to talk about all the pulling vehicles you've had.
Had a couple
but
of them.
Yeah. What did you get started with?
I had the old white, the overdrawn tractor, which
99,
I think we started that one. 98, 99. I worked with Doug at Diesel Specialties in Sioux City. And I found this tractor, and it was Larry Heller's old Tugger. That one was. We drug it out of the weeds and kind of put it back together and put a P pump on it. And then, I don't know, I sold that and then kind of rodeoed for a little bit, and then came back and I bought Larry Lundry's old little britches, the little 656, and then got rid of that and went and rodeoed for a lot more, and then came back and I bought from Jeremy Tesmer. He had a 7810 light super 4010 rear end with Rod Pasota's old 2 turbo setup.
2 Charger. Yep.
And I bought that deal and kind of, I don't know. I think it actually ran one time after we got done with it. I think it ran one time, and then I sold it to John Hoffman. John Hoffman bought it from me, and then it went to, is it Bajo Boy? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Frank,
yeah. Okay.
Green Lightning.
Interesting.
And then now I went and rodeoed and started the auction deal, and now I ended up with the Crazy Horse.
Holy smokes! So that's I see a pattern here.
The Crazy Horse isn't getting sold.
If it does, it'll come to my house.
I can pay my electric bill now. I don't have to sell the Crazy Horse.
Oh man. Well, let's go from that to Terry. I'll let Terry tell the story. I think I I may know part of this, but
All right. Well, we started with the old cock shed in about 95 or 6 with Iowa. We pulled it antique for years before that. And then it was a single turbo diesel with the Hercules motor in it. So it was never that hot. But we went to a lot of pulls and had a lot of fun, I guess. And then I had a John Deere single turbo again for a couple of years there. And like, probably 01, 02 maybe. And after that, then we kind of took a break. And then garden tractor pulled with the kids for a few years. We took a break for a while, but then we had garden tractors and mini rods with the kids for a while. And then we got the old cock shed out again a few years ago here and still working some bugs out of it. But
and that's the same cock shed that you pulled antiques and
parts of it.
Okay.
Not many parts of it, but
yeah.
Anyway, and it's a Cummins on alcohol now, and so
it's a nice little tractor. Okay, and boy, and Brian, you had what, a 2-wheel drive back in that late 90s, early 2000s then?
Yeah, it was called the Humdinger.
Yeah.
Bought it out of Kentucky.
Okay.
Got me started on it. So.
and it was I remember it being way different than a lot because it had a blown Ford in it at the time.
Yep, big block Ford motor.
Okay. And then did you end up selling that chassis and that stuff later on then?
Yeah, I think 2012. So I think
okay.
We went to Missouri and the motor and stuff went to Texas.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay. Wait, Corey, you're talking, man, you started in 99 with that Oliver?
Out in Outlaws. My dad bought that back in early 90s, like 90, 91 out of Ohio.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I was pulling like a naturally aspirated tractors back then. And he started running some regional events in Wisconsin, things like that. And then sold the naturally aspirated and then kind of started working on that thing with him and taking it to areas. And yeah, I mean, we were pulling some local groups with it, then went up to Toma in 98 and decided that we wanted to, I mean, some of the Wisconsin pulls, even though we're in Wisconsin, we're in southwest corner, would get to be like 5-6 hour drive for us. Like Toma's closest, that's 2 hours.
Okay.
Most of the region, Wisconsin hooks were way up north. So looking for somewhere closer. And we started heading out west to Iowa and Outlaw, and that was probably about 99, somewhere in that area. Started getting missed some of them and then getting kind of more into the whole thing.
Well, and that was kind of a transition too, because that I would assume that some of that stuff in Wisconsin was getting pretty salty with they were pretty early on the component tractors and that stuff to where that class really changed in that time frame.
Yeah, a lot of aluminum heads came in and stuff like that. They weren't into components yet, but aluminum heads and getting bigger cube engines were kind of big, and we could come out to the Outlaws, and I mean, they got a lot of good stuff out there, right? But be competitive yet, and
yes,
and still drive about the same distance. And what we always liked about it was we'd get out there, and I mean, we'd leave on a Thursday and hit 3 or 4 poles and come back on a Sunday night. And although you had that 5-6 hour drive the first way, you could be a couple hours within a few poles, so that was nice.
I can second that from the other side of the world.
Yeah.
It was a little farther maybe, but absolutely,
right.
You could go hit several poles. So
yeah, that first drive was a long one, but after that, it was you were there, and yeah, it was easier on the checkbook by then.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I wasn't in the rodeo and I didn't get that rodeo money, so I had to just go tractor.
And then we had that guy from Western Nebraska that came up with that demonstrator tractor and showed us all up.
See, you missed the early part. See, it's kind of interesting, with Corey, because I put that tractor together in 93, but you have to understand it never got painted for a long time. I actually pulled out in Western Iowa there and stuff when it was still in TPA. So I hit several shows like in 97. We really got it running good 95, 96.
It had no paint on it.
Oh, it had paint. Some of it was original. You know, the
Yeah, that's
John
what I
Deere
mean,
front
yeah.
end, it was still
I
green, and
remember
yeah, it looked terrible.
Yep.
Terrible.
The only
Yeah.
paint left on it was original, Greg.
I don't know. I mean, some of it looked like it may have been brushed on a couple times. It was whatever come out of the salvage yard. I can tell you that. We were more worried about the other stuff at the time. And
Terry's got
I
a
also,
program.
what's that?
Terry's grabbing a program. He has a picture of it in the program. He's going to show you.
Really?
Yeah.
That's why
No,
it was
that,
always nice to go. You go to the middle of Iowa, like the Des Moines area, and Greg wouldn't show up, right? So,
Yeah.
Well, see, here's stuff that people didn't realize. I had a antique pulling sled that kept me dang busy in the summer. So I had to pick him times when I didn't have pulls, but I would drive anywhere if I could get away and had the time, you know. That summer in '97, my wife and we didn't have kids at the time, which actually really helped.
Doug might have to hold it up there.
We put dang near 30,000 miles on a pickup and trailer.
Let's see. Can you see that?
I've got that one here.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can.
I said,
find
yeah,
it.
I probably
I've got
have that
some
on my,
pictures I can put up here in a second.
yeah. That was interesting times.
I remember putting the stickers on it after you painted it.
Yeah, that was
The demonstrator stickers.
You know, speaking of that, the girl up in the left-hand corner there,
There you go.
she's the reason we quit coming out, to be honest with you there.
Oh, geez.
2000, you're not in the program on that one.
That one there was it. Well, see, that was
99, the one we just showed.
it's actually Carol in '97 right there. I at least painted the front wheels, I guess.
Painted them or found them?
No, they were really. I did actually paint them. But yeah, no, that I'll tell you what, it seems like forever ago, you know.
Actually, to me, it seems like it was yesterday.
Yeah, I'm not there, man. You know, and but Kurt, I tell you what, that, you know, it's crazy. I was looking through those tractors that you cycled through. The man, Doug was telling me that you guys were still running. Was that a single or twin turbo Waukesha that was in there in that first white?
Started out single, then went to twins, but I don't know. The twin deal never worked out very good. But I think it was because we had so much metal in the oil pan all the time that no turbo was going to work very good.
That's what they got filters for, man.
Oh, I know. We had filters on it, and then everybody goes, "Oh, you got a filter on there. You can't get enough oil to the turbo with a filter. You got to take that off." It didn't matter. Filter, no filter. Turbos
Pick your poison, huh? Yeah.
We ran twins on the cockship for 1 year, but I wouldn't know that you'd call it run it because it never made it very far. It was pretty unsuccessful. So
I'll be darned. Any idea what year that was, Terry?
Oh, 99, I think.
About when, like the year before we,
Yep.
Okay.
And that was the last hurrah with that tractor then.
Or Corey and I the only two that pulled without roll cages?
No, I
never had a cage.
Yeah, our white.
Okay.
I had a roll cage eventually too.
Yeah. Okay. Then what, Terry? You're Southwest Wisconsin. What town are you from there?
Corey, you mean?
Or Corey? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, like Cassville, Wisconsin. Like we're right on the Mississippi River. I'm actually like 30 minutes from Dubuque, Iowa.
Okay. Yeah, that isn't that far because
No.
I see that you had worked at Slabtown there. I've been up there a couple times actually.
Yeah,
Is that
Jeff and I
pretty
are,
close?
Yeah, Jeff and I are like we grew up together, like right down the road, a few miles
Okay.
where his home farm is, and been good friends through high school. He's a year younger than me. He used to come out pulling with Outlaws and stuff too back in Super Farm days, and yeah, he's about 15, 20 minutes from me up in Lancaster.
Okay. I was wondering how far you were from Lancaster, and then Zens are right there in your neighborhood too. Then, huh?
They're actually just like right up the road. Like they're closer to me than probably most people around here. But yeah, and when Steve actually bought the white the first time it came out in New York, it was a triple charger with the 5.9 in it, and
Okay.
I'd blown my engine up that year, and after Louisville and actually took him out. We pulled a bunch of outlaws and Iowa State out there at the time too. So.
Okay. Yeah. I remember seeing the name. That's part of the time when I was, not traveling out there quite a bit, but
yeah,
that's interesting too. They've got some dang tough little light limited supers right now.
They do. Yeah. Those are some good run tractors. And yeah, there's a lot of people right around this tri-state area where I live that, we got Jamie Morrow with the Super Farm tractor, runs the S Deer, used to, and
Yep.
Grand National Champion. We got Josh Blackburn in Cuba City. That's just literally a half an hour from here, from where I live. So a lot of more experienced people and better builders than I am.
Have you any itch to get back in the game?
If I could win this lottery, the Powerball tonight, maybe.
So you're saying there's still a chance?
There's a chance. Yeah. I'm telling you, I'm thinking I got to get in the rodeo circuit because I see a pattern. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kurt's my idol.
I'll buy your card for you.
Yeah. So I don't know. That cracks me up a little bit, Kurt. So you've kind of bounced between the rodeo and the pulling quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
Any similarities?
Yeah, they both cost a fortune. Yeah. Except the tractor, if you actually park it, it actually
doesn't cost you anything.
You don't have to feed.
And you've had no broken bones.
Yeah, no broken bones with the tractor yet.
Yeah. Is that where you got to know? Is it Weston?
Weston Shoop
With the what is Infinite Performance?
Yeah, Weston Shoop. Yeah, he so you know Weston?
I've talked to him a little bit, and it was always intriguing to me because he was a rodeo guy that built performance parts. It's like two things just did not go together.
He was actually my neighbor for years. Grew up with him, roped with him, went to 4-H with him, the whole deal. And then we actually started working on pickups and stuff together in my shop. And he used my shop at my house for years. I don't know what, 3-4 years probably. Yeah. And then he met a gal and moved up north of us a little bit. I just actually hung out with him a week or so ago for a few hours. But yeah, he does a lot of injectors and stuff, seems like.
Yeah, he's kind of one of those builders that kind of flies under the radar a little bit.
Yeah. Yep, I know him very good. Yep.
So, well, I have to ask this. When did you meet Rod Pasota?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, would have been like 98, 99.
When you had the white.
Yeah, when I had the white. Because
Okay.
you always seen the crazy horse pull in, you're like, well, shit. You know?
Well, with Rod, he was generally late.
Oh, yeah. Hauling, yeah.
So-
Little red gooseneck coming in, tractor bouncing, chains
Coming in hot. Yep.
Yeah. I can still picture it. Chains bouncing, nothing's tiny, over off, and away he goes.
Oh, and I mentioned that last night that it always used to crack me up because Ravenna was his hometown pull, generally the first one for Outlaw for the year. And I don't know if Rod ever heard the national anthem there.
No, I bet not.
Half the time they were still working on it, you know.
He actually told me
Who remembers a pull where Rod was on the trailer building boost with it tied down yet with the chain binders on it?
That's the story. Yeah.
Carol
Yes,
McBride.
I will never forget
About
that.
last night in Carroll. Yep.
That's the only way you can make that thing run, Kurt. You got to do that once.
Yeah.
We were on that deal last night and we were talking about it. They go like something, I don't know, I asked something about a memory or whatever. I said, Rod Pasota lighting the tractor chain down on the trailer. I said, only thing I said, Rod, what are you doing? He goes, well, the damn thing won't run on the track. Just we'll see if it'll run on the trailer.
The one that stuck with me was the day, and of course, I think the class had already started, and they had like 8 people putting the thing together in Ravenna, and they get out to the track, and somebody had hooked the hydraulic steering up backwards, and Rod, you just saw him as like that hand never moved, but he drove that thing that way. It's only something Rod did.
So I got a story
of that one.
So we were putting his little white together, and I put the rack in, and and he jumps up there and he turns the steering wheel, and he turns it to the left, and the wheels go to the right, and he's sitting there scratching his head, and I said, "Well, we're gonna have to move that." And Kurt says, "No, we can leave it. It'll be all right." And I said, "No, Kurt, you need to make it right."
Well, it's kind of the same deal as Rod, always late, and we were in a hurry and whatever. I said, "Oh, we can work by that. You don't need to steer it anyway if the front wheels are off the ground."
Yeah.
We stayed up pretty late the trying to get that done, and it was me and Kurt and Brian was there, and we got it running for the very first time. And the next day was Mobile, Woodbury County Fair tractor pull. It rained like 4 inches that day, so we didn't even get to go play.
All that work and nothing, huh?
Yeah.
Tell them about your wife.
No. My wife had to go to work the next day, and she told us about, 1:30, 2 o'clock, tractor pulling was over for the night because the shop was right by the house at that time.
We're out there all celebrating, jumping and dancing in joy because the tractor actually started. She come out and she was mad at us. We couldn't understand.
She had to go to work. She was not happy.
After grinding like 7 pounds of aluminum off the side of a P pump and only 3 bolts holding it on and all that stuff, we're like, holy crap, this thing actually started.
That was not a fun deal putting that on there.
Yeah.
And Terry, your cockshut, did you have some issues last summer with that, or?
Yeah, well, it was probably more that I don't know what I'm doing with it. But anyway, it took a while to get some parts and get everything set up. And then I had a couple good runs, and then it acted up a little bit. And so then I decided to just regroup, and we'll hit her again this year.
There she is.
Oh, good. We're kind of excited to see that out next summer some because.
Yeah, hopefully I can get out a little more than I did the last couple of years here. So
it'd be great.
He acts like he's busy or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just swamped.
Here's some other pictures Terry sent me today.
Okay.
That's one that my boy and my niece and nephew run in the last few years, and that's got a Hayabusa motor in it.
Oh, jeez.
They run them at Mobile, right?
Yeah, we run those at Mobile right alongside Outlaws usually.
Yep.
And that's with the Northwest Iowa tractor pullers. That's a cockshut, but it's basically a Cub Cadet, and I section the hood and whatever, build a hood for it, I guess. But then that's the mini rod we had. Originally that was bought, and my daughter ran it a couple times, and then she went on to do something different. So then I ran it for a few years, and we don't have that one anymore. We sold that when we started getting the cockshut out again. So.
Okay.
She rodeoing?
No, not
She's not a barrel racer.
No. And this is another one that we've got that my boy and my niece run. My boy ran it in the past. My niece has run it here the last couple of years. That one's got a GSXR 750 on it. That picture is in Minnow. That pole they have up there every year.
Are you talking Minnow, South Dakota?
Yeah, Minnow, South Dakota. They have the power show, and then they have an antique pole, and then they have the garden tractors and mini rods next to them. That's a 4010 that I built along the way, and that was like a 3,000 tractor. I didn't run that one much at all. So.
Yeah, I never saw that one.
It wasn't much. That was a 4020 that I ran for a couple of years, probably like 01, 02.
Okay.
I got that from Scott Sayers out in Nebraska, and then kind of lightened it up and redid a few things on it, and yeah, that was that one. So that went to Michigan, I think, or somewhere.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of interesting. You mentioned that, like, Corey, where did your tractor end up? Because I knew it was in Nebraska for quite a long time, but it's since moved on, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, it was Western Iowa and like Southwestern. Shannon Allen bought it.
Oh, I thought he was in Nebraska. Okay, he's actually in Iowa then.
Yeah, like right on the border out there.
Okay.
He bought it from me, and then he recently sold it like a year or two ago, and it came back to Illinois. but I haven't seen it out since then.
Okay.
So.
Say the last time I saw it run at the Cornhusker Classic, it looked like it was a little warm underneath.
That happens.
Yeah.
Corey, you better tell these people the name of it. I don't think you've said the name of it yet.
It was called the Nasty One.
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing. I know you. I mean, it was pretty well known out in the outlaw country there for a while.
Yeah, it was pretty famous back in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, it run really good.
I'll never forget Corey's dad, Ron. Whenever Corey'd get done with the pass, had to put the pipe plug back on the your vent.
Yeah, that was his job.
Yep.
We can't have dirt in that alcohol system.
I remember I needed some alcohol one time, and I bought, I don't know, 5 gallon from you guys or something or whatever, and I ran it, and I'm like, God, that smells like
Why does it smell like this?
That smells like Christmas trees. Ron's like, oh, that's special stuff.
Now you're giving away the secrets.
Was that the Waukesha motor in that?
Yep, 310 Waukesha in there, twin chargers.
Okay. And then you actually had started building a Hercules.
Yeah, I did. Just never got. Still got the engine sitting there, but sold the chassis and everything. It was, when I sold that, I was going to build it, and then it took too long, and then everything went component and stuff like that, and decided to sell the chassis and get rid of that, and it's just found some other things to do in life.
Yeah, I can understand. And I don't know how much you guys know Dan here, but he actually has got a tractor that we maybe saw some. He didn't pull a ton of outlaw at the time, but that's Gary Whip's old Deer Fever that Dan's running now in the light limited super.
Only time I see it is getting pictures with girls on it.
That last picture was that's me. I garden tractor pulled when I was a little kid, so that's how I got started. That picture right there is the first pull I went to with that cockshed, and it was all stock with chrome wheels on it, and we were looking for low gear pulls because that's all we could handle. And that was Shelby, Iowa, and the pull was put on by Jim Scheffler, who had a 460, and John Hoffman was there with an Oliver 88, and that was his first pull too with that tractor. With his tractor.
Holy cow.
And that would have been 92, I think.
Holy cow.
So
it wasn't too long after that John Hoffman, I remember him showing up at early Ravenna pull, and I thought he had like a 1650 Oliver with the single charger.
1800.
It was an
1800,
I think.
Yeah, it really run good.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
The real green.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was after the 88. That first 88 he had was a really good running tractor, and I don't know where he got that or whether he built it or what. But that pull was the first pull for him with that tractor with that 88, and with me with that cockshed, and then Jim Scheffler put it on. So.
Scheffler's tractor didn't run too bad from what I remember there either, because I think it had a 301 in it with all the 6.6. It probably turned some RPM if I'm not mistaken.
On what was that? On
Scheffler's tractor. I know.
Yeah, on the antique version they had.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a good running tractor. Yep.
Yeah, we've actually known Jim for a long, long time.
I feel like when we were going in the late 90s, the first few of them, I feel Scheffler's was still on gas yet.
Yes, it was.
Turbocharged gas.
It was.
When?
We used to run
when was that?
Oh, 98, 99. I think it was on turbo.
See, that's
yes.
Oh, man, I feel like I missed a lot there, because that's what, I come home after that 97 season, with a pregnant wife, and and then shortly after that was a roll cage, and I actually ended up sitting out for a year with the roll cage stuff there in 98.
But yeah, the first ones that Jim pulled with Iowa, it was a carbureted 460
turbo race gas.
Yep. Yep.
I'm gonna have to visit with him about it. I totally missed all that. Cause I mean, at that time he bought a fair amount of parts from us, and I know my dad had helped him a fair amount.
And then about that time, Jeremy Paulson was probably pulling an 880 diesel, I think, around our
Okay.
Polson area.
Yep. I was going to say, I remember him. First time I saw him was with the Deutz.
Yep, total chaos.
Yep. He had the Dukes.
Yep. I actually had to stop him at Wisner this year and just make sure that was the same and what all transpired, because I remember that, that tractor there. And then later on, he bought the baby blue Ford Charger. Was it Ford Charger, Doug? Diesel out of New York?
I think it was.
And then didn't they
Switch to alcohol?
Yeah, later on they switched to alcohol. Mm-hmm. Did he was that a Paulson motor? Like maybe the Polson? Rob Paulson?
Yeah, that was the old blue can motor,
Yeah. I tell you what, guys, I don't know what you guys feel like. This is making me feel old. Because, it's, man, between Glenn Freeze and Paulson and, this is a majority of, that was a pretty big part of that light super class back then.
Ed Sass had the 460 from
Herd Bore.
The Herd Bore, yep.
Was around in that same era.
Mm-hmm.
The Triple Massey, you remember that one?
Yeah.
From Jason Clinton, I believe. That pulled with us. That was before you guys, probably. And I don't know.
See that I actually kind of remember that tractor because wasn't that Connor's Massey?
Yes, it was. But they updated the hood, I think, after they got it, didn't they?
Yeah, they put like that 3505 or something, that later Massey sheet metal on it.
I think Connors actually put that hood on it and then sold it.
Oh, did they? Okay.
I remember that tractor though. I had triple cut tires on it and stuff too. Yeah, I remember that. It's kind of weird what you remember when you start talking about it.
Yeah.
Piper Brothers from
the last one. That was
yeah.
that was a tough tractor back in the day.
That
thing always impressed me how they drove that. Like they would drive that thing out of the hole and you think it wouldn't even go past 75 foot. And
well, it sounded like it was turning. It sounded like it could have run a 3,000 RPM class. It never turned a lot of RPM, but that thing hung in there and performed well.
Yeah, 75 foot. He'd take his foot off the clutch finally, and the thing would just walk right by right where you were standing. And
but that thing ran every time. It never missed a lick.
That's kind of how yours was too, though, Corey. It didn't sound like it was tearing up a ton of RPMs either.
Yeah. I never had it high RPM. It was geared to bring it down.
That was a picture of my dad. My dad had 1256. He pulled Iowa and Nebraska there for a little while. That one picture of the cock shop before it was when we first got it. We bought that. I had an 88 diesel that I bought that was rolled, and that's what we were going to build for an antique tractor. Well, it had 3 bent rods, and we worked on it. It wasn't running very good. It was a hunk of junk. And Dad called me one day. He says, "Hey, there's a 570 cock shop down by Iowa City." And I said, "I'm not spending no more money on tractor pulling." I said, "If you can get money out of this 88 Oliver that I got in it," I said, "then we'll buy that cock shop." And he happened to call Rock Valley, and they had a truck down in the area. And the time I got home, it was gone. And then we went and got this cock shop. We had to build a fire under it to get it to move because it was froze up. The rear end was. And anyway, so that's how that all started.
Okay, serious question, Terry. Is there a brand that you haven't pulled?
Red one.
Well, I just saw 1256. I was kind of shocked.
That wasn't me, though.
That was your dad. Okay.
Yeah, that don't count. This is at the Hinton Tractor Pull, and I went to the Hinton Tractor Pull every year from the time I can remember. And so that's probably like 74 or 5. And that was an article in the paper somewhere that my mom got out years ago. And anyway, so that was always my favorite pull. Probably still is, still always will be, I guess. That was part of that Western swing, and that was always a good time.
I wish I could remember when I'd been there. I was there a couple times in the 90s, and then but I'm pretty confident my dad pulled there probably in the middle 80s.
They had that pull clear back in the late 60s, I believe.
When people still stepped on the sled, even.
Because
Yeah.
a lot of it was just a local pull clear back in the day. That tractor you just showed there, that was one that my dad had built like in '75, and that was a Ranger airplane motor or something that he had in a WD-45 rear end, and he had it running but never run it because he thought it was going to kill him and somebody else, and he ended up using it for a farm tractor or something. So it never.
Terry, how far are you away from Hinton?
Oh, I am about 50 miles, but probably at the most 40.
I didn't realize. Okay.
Maybe 30.
But when I was a kid, we lived a mile outside of Hinton.
Okay.
And I would ride my bike in the day of the tractor pull every year and just check everything out as it came in. And yeah, so that was always the pull. That was like Christmas Day.
Yeah.
It was 100 degrees.
Yeah, a little warm, and I had to ride a bike.
Well, yeah.
It didn't bother me then. Probably might now.
Doug
remember
Meisinger says that leaning bar in Hinton will get you.
Every time. Every single time, Doug.
That things I remember from that Western sweep was the days of like Eckenrod and Kenny Sanders and those guys. They were something to. That's kind of where we ran into those guys. They were some pretty tough pullers back in the day.
They were the guys to beat back then.
Yeah, I got to know those guys pretty good. I bought some parts off of them guys back in the day.
Well, so you ran some of Sanders stuff, correct?
Yeah, and I had some of Eckenrod's plumbing when we went to that 656 rear end for turbochargers too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I just seen a picture of Eckenrod's tractor not too long ago on the internet. I don't remember where it went, but it's changed hands a couple times now. It was up in Minnesota, but I think it's somewhere else again now.
I'll be darned.
I think Sanders, parts of that ended up going to Minnesota too. Of course, I had the engine out of that.
You had the engine out of Kenny Sanders' tractor?
I had the block and cam and I didn't get any of the turbos or plumbing off of that, but
Yep.
But yeah, I pretty much got a short block that was in the old Cruiser.
Huh. Yeah,
that's a heavy super.
As you say, you tell a few stories on that, Doug.
Oh yeah, that was a lot of fun.
How long did you have that tractor?
Oh, 5 years maybe.
Oh man.
I never forget. My father-in-law and I, drove clear out to Maryland, and brought that home. Did that in a week.
Thing that struck me with that was how clean that tractor was.
Yeah.
There was a lot of nice work done on that thing.
Yeah, Esden Lane did a lot of work on that engine.
He did. Okay.
Yeah.
Greg, ask him if he regrets selling it.
I may have said something to him the other night. I remember being in Trip, South Dakota when a lot of things went south on that thing, and Doug was not a very happy guy that night. Well, and I think I remember it getting thrown out there. If it had $30,000, that thing would be gone. And I'm sitting there going, man.
Well,
need to go get rid of a kidney here or something.
We actually, what was that? A county shed or something?
Yes.
That rolled into?
Yes, it was.
We
Trip, South Dakota.
At a pole in a county shed. And then some guy had a press, and we had a flywheel bolt come loose, if I remember right.
Yep.
And Mark Ulmer, he's like, oh, find somebody with a press. We'll press them straight. Well, we tried, and we couldn't get it back into gear. And Ulmer's like, let me on it. I'll run that thing.
Dad, Venado wants you to turn your phone sideways.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Oh, good Lord, it's freaking out here. What the hell did I do?
Where did that tractor go, Doug?
It went back to Maryland.
Really?
So it's a pretty interesting story about that. That tractor was bought, and it never went to the field. The guy that bought it, he made it into I think it was a pro stock tractor back in the day. And the guy that contacted me and wanted to buy it, his grandpa helped build it, but the guy would not sell his grandpa's tractor, so this was the next best thing. And it was originally called Kay's Delight, so he bought it and he repainted it, changed the name back to Kay's Delight, and yeah, so it's back out in Maryland.
Dan, this is where we need Clayton Sweeney. No, he seriously, he knew all about this. And I think that Thurman Munford was involved in it heading back to Maryland or something. I wish Clayton was here because I got some fuzzy gaps there in that story, but
Really?
that tractor was kind of a local legend there, not too far away from, like Maryland's that big. But
when we went to get that, I think it was Taneytown, Maryland. We were about 30 miles from Camp David when we picked that up.
Really?
Yeah. When we were kind of going through those mountains in Pennsylvania, we actually had, there were some rocks that evidently fell, and there was a rock from Pennsylvania on the trailer when we got home.
You still have that rock?
We do. It's actually in our living room, sitting on one of the counters or whatever in the living room.
oh goodness.
Venata says they stopped and saw him during the wedding. The red alert, that is.
Saw the tractor?
Or the guy when they were out there for Sweeney's wedding.
Yeah. Marty Samuelson wants to know if anybody remembers the Ravenna Farmers tractor.
I remember talk of it. I don't remember the tractor per se, but that was Rod and a couple other guys, and I think they started with an Oliver, if I'm not mistaken.
Venata says both.
Both the tractor and okay. Yeah, Marty, if you might fill us in if you do remember that, because that was kind of the start of a whole bunch of the pulling stuff, that Ravenna tractor that he's talking about. The whole, and that right now is,
What was it called?
what did he say, Jazz? It was called?
Farmers.
Who?
It was a group of farmers in Ravenna that put that first tractor together.
So he just said the Ravenna Farmers tractor. I don't know if anyone threw out the name.
I think that's what they called it.
Oh,
That's before your time, Dan.
yes, had to have been.
Yeah.
Rod did have an Oliver though, correct? That he started with.
That's what I remember.
The side panels are still hanging in his Morton building.
That's what he told me.
I saw him. I saw him when I went and picked up the Crazy Horse. He showed them to me. They're hanging in his Morton building.
But he didn't keep the Crazy Horse ones, huh?
I told him if I get new ones, he can have them back. But I also told him if I can find a set of front wheels that fit this creature, he can have them back too, because there's something that need to be in the World Book of Guinness Records, as bent as they are and still have air in them.
They, you can think we got a tough life. Think what those things have been through.
Yeah, I know. So I call Rod. I said, "What's the bolt pattern?" I said, "It measures 5 on 5. Is it Chevy or what?" He goes, "Hell, I don't know. Whatever a WD-45 Alice is, that's what they are."
Oh, Rod is certainly a throwback, I tell you.
Oh, I'll tell you what. You get on the phone with him. We were doing that outlaw podcast the other night, and I told them guys, I said, I'm pretty sure I have more hours on my phone than my dad has on his 72 40/20 talking to Rod.
I just found this one on Facebook.
There's Rod.
That's Rod's. Yep, that's the side panels. I don't know if them are the exact ones that are in the hanging in the shed or not, but that was the name of it.
The slave.
One of my classic Rod. I wasn't there for this, but I love watching. He was at the Iowa State Fair, and this had to be. It was a while ago, but it was when that Cast Light Super. There was a lot of pretty tough tractors in there. I think Brian Bowles still had the Haley's Comet, and Rod goes out there and coughs that thing. That thing pre-ignites, big boom, about 30 feet. That thing lit, front end 2 foot off the ground, and just wiped everybody. It's if you ever, it's worth going to watch. It's on like Iowa Public Television or something when they used to film it. It's just, it's classic the way Rod did stuff. Cause I mean, it, you know, that thing was on the edge and not quite perfect, but it coughed, lit. And I mean, it was
kind of all or nothing, Rod.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We'll sort it out later.
Yeah. Probably one of the coolest human beings that you could ever have a conversation with. I mean, the dude is so, I don't know, it's weird. Like, he's so laid back when you talk to him and just, oh yeah, whatever. And the way he describes stuff to you. Like, I can remember calling him and he goes, well, all you got to do is make sure. I'm like, what nozzle size or whatever when I was working on my old tractor. And he goes, well, you just got to calculate it out. Like, if you could take 3 whiskey straws, and if that much alcohol will go through there, that's what you need, about that size. And if it adds up to about the same, then it'll work. You know, like the way he describes stuff it's hilarious and it's awesome, but it's so like down to earth, and actually that's exactly how it is, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a Ravenna thing too, though. I asked Ricky Barons one day if he had a computer on his Pro Stock, and he's like, "Oh no, Greg, if I see fire, I just need to put a little more water to it."
Doug Meisinger says he can remember parking beside Rod, and he's adjusting his clutch while the tractor's tied to the trailer, with it running and spinning the tires to see when the clutch is locking up.
Yeah, that sounds like Rod.
Yeah.
And then switching gears, Marty was thinking the farmer's tractor was red, but says don't quote him on that.
Well, and you know what? There might have been a 460 involved too in there.
Oh, really?
That's interesting. Yeah, that's before my time. I mean, I love the history, but that's pushing it a little bit.
Well, who had the 465-60 out your way, Greg, that used to come out the Western Sweep once in a while?
Was it? Well, could have been Ivan Miller.
Ivan Miller, yeah.
Yeah, because he
made
Ivan
trips out.
Yep, Ivan ran around with us quite a bit, you know, at times. I know, you know, now telling myself here, I really screwed up for Ivan. 2004, he followed me around to what was the state fair sweep. And man, kind of did the math. I'm like, Ivan, you should just buy one-time hooks just for, you know, because he's not going to be out here much. And I'll be damned if Ivan wouldn't have won the state fair sweep if he would have just bought a membership. I've heard about that a few times.
Does he still have that tractor?
Yes, he does. Yep.
Is it still around?
Yeah,
They still have it?
it's been going through some growing pains. It had been parked for a little while, but Ivan's business has blown up. He's got probably 15 to 20 employees. He sells new McCormick tractors and a couple other lines, and has a huge salvage yard there in Maxwell. And he got that thing running last year, and Hart's turbo and a whole bunch of stuff. And man, it made a pretty screaming run at one of our pulls, and made 2/3 of a run and laid rods on the track.
Oh.
So
wasn't it North Platte that it did that at?
Imperial.
No, Imperial. Well, here's pictures, or a picture.
Yep.
Terry and I are just looking through the book. Is the temperamental around yet?
You know, last time I heard it was sitting outside. Todd Nelson.
Yep.
Yeah. And that was, I'll tell you what, that was another tractor that, you know, you talked about the Little Britches tractor of Lundry's. That tractor come from Hiawatha, Kansas.
Oh, really?
Oh, goodness. I just totally forgot the guy's name.
Weird.
Todd bought that. It was still 3088 with the 301 in it. And then he later bought Randy Reetz's DT360 that was switched over to alcohol by Blackburns.
Did they have two
And
tractors?
boy, let me tell you. Well, that thing was
Is
a monster for a couple years in Outlaw.
Did Nelson's have 2 tractors at one time?
Yeah.
Nelson's have had lots of tractors. You had
But
Lyle
Todd
that had
had
the
two.
I was
see
thinking
Todd.
that
Well,
two
Todd had Lyle's old 460 alcohol tractor and the temperamental or 3088,
Taz
and then Lyle had the 4-charger diesel that Mel has now.
That's another one that you always remember. Yep. That Pfeiffer Brothers. Remember that one? The Pfeiffer Brothers Alice.
Yep. Yeah, that was a good old tractor there.
Greg, didn't you guys have 2 of them? Didn't you have a red and a gold?
Yeah, my mom's the red one was my mom's tractor, and then mine was the gold one.
So like one was called Itty Bitty and the other was Little Bitty or something like that?
Yes, Yeah,
Cornhusker, do you he sold that when it went to
It was
Like
old bitty, little bitty,
yeah.
and then Zach called the antique itty bitty.
Yeah, I tell you what, that's another story too. I think, as you saw earlier in the picture of all the rust, I told Rod when I knew I was in trouble and it was no longer going to be competitive, I painted it.
So do you guys remember another one? And I think, you correct me if I'm wrong, Corey, you probably remember him. Was the guy's name David Gilmore out of Missouri?
Yep, tough enough.
Yeah, tough. And he'd come up here and Glenn Freeze,
Super nice.
Glenn Freeze tell me, he goes, yeah, he'll come rolling up here. He goes, you look at them big old ugly tires and all that, and you think it isn't going to do nothing. But he said, he'll take your money all day.
That was a good running old tractor. Yeah, no, that was a good guy, and the sad thing was they wanted to sell those tractors here a year or 2 ago. And there just isn't much of a market for those old tractors. It was really sad because it was good equipment.
Well, then there was another guy out of Missouri. He'd come up once in a while. It was a 4 or 560 painted white.
Yeah, PC Long.
There you go. Yeah.
PC was neighbors. I mean, PC, we still stay in touch with PC.
And then
yeah, he's out of Macon.
Ricky Jones too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ricky Jones just built a pretty cool little, like in the last few years. It's like a 766 tin work. Have you guys seen that at all?
Yeah.
Kind of a
Yeah, I
turbo.
don't. Yeah, I saw pictures of it, but I never saw it in person.
Yeah, I saw some videos of it. It looks like it runs really hard for a little small block motor.
Larry Wilson, the old rawhide tractor, was one of my favorites too from down there.
Yeah. The other one that was always impressive was that case out of Kansas.
Basket
case.
Yeah.
Larry Wessel.
Wessel, there you go. Yeah.
Yep.
Marty says that old flatbed truck they hauled them with is still in Bolus.
Sitting by the school.
Lyle's.
Yes.
Yeah, Lyle had I don't remember if it was a 50s or 60s Ford truck with he transplanted a DT 466 in it. And Lyle was still out pulling in Colorado, I think, when he was 82 years old.
Yep.
Chuck
that flatbed truck, don't you?
is asking about the M Super Stock.
Oh. Well, that's my dad pulled an M, carbureted M turbocharged for, well, I say a long time, but early 70s, and sold it in 1981. So
Is that the same one we brought back home or no?
yeah, that's getting it bought back. That thing ended up in Montana for several years and then come back and ended up just outside of Ravenna. And I don't know if do you guys remember Dan, what year did you guys run around with the 180 of Dave Christmas?
Probably 97 or 8, probably.
Okay.
I think 90, between 96 and 98, I think is when I started running around with him.
Yep. James McGuire bought that Alice out of Indiana, and that thing was tough for a few years until it tossed its cookies at the state fair.
Yeah.
That was the first block I ever see get split and hop off.
Says Tony Dibble had a M light super.
Yeah, that was actually an MD, switched over to alcohol.
That'd be
Yep.
cool.
Yeah, that was, oh man, that was, did any of you guys know the Dibbles?
Uh-uh.
They were originally out of New York, and they built a 1468 on alcohol. Boy, back in probably the 80s.
Weren't they the sheet metal guys, binder light?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, really.
Yep. So they when that light limited super deal took off in Kentucky, and I mean, Ted he actually called out here, and I got him in touch with my dad, and they took that MD and punched it out to like right close to 370 cubes. They did some unique stuff because they actually used something with that extra valve, and they had something weird like 7 or exhaust ports, or it was crazy stuff under the hood. And they made that M sheet metal, and that stupid thing for a 4-cylinder ran like a house of fire.
It ran good, and it was for sale here a couple years ago with a broke crank or something.
Yeah, see, Ted passed away, and there was a Mattingly out of Kentucky ended up, and he ran it. Him and his daughter ran it for a year, I think, and then it broke, and the family put it up for sale. But yeah, that was a neat tractor. So,
as far as like Iowa guys, there was Ed Dreesen was right in our area. He used to stop out at our house when I was a kid, and they would do some trading and stuff. And Kurt's uncle Don Paulson had an M that was on alcohol with a turbo and 23 ones back in the mid 70s. And him and my dad worked together all the time. And I tried to find a picture of it, and I couldn't find it. I know we have one somewhere, but it was a really good
interesting
tractor. It was one of them go or blow deals, it either ran or didn't. One time they were messing around in the driveway and it backfired, and it blew the intake pipe or something clear over the grove, and they spent half a day out there looking for that part. And then they put a chain on it, and so it couldn't get away then. And anyway, there was all kinds of stuff like that going on.
I miss some of that stuff. I wish my dad and my uncle actually put together a 450 diesel that they switched over to gas, and it was twin turbocharged on gas. And that they campaigned that for a year and a half, and it would make good power, but one run and it was done.
Yeah.
They just couldn't ever get it to hold. Like I said, it made really good power, but it was best left
4010
left in the scrapyard.
We used to have a 4010 deer in our neighborhood that he won Louisville, didn't he, Kurt?
Who's that? Yeah, Freddie Nichols.
I think in
Fred Nichols
75 won Louisville, and then he went to alcohol. But I think that ended up there around Corey somewhere in Wisconsin. Guy bought it on a farm sale back in the early 90s.
Really?
I'll be darned. I tell you, the other two that were always a characters was the old Overdraft 2.
Oh yeah,
Arlen Jensen.
Arlen from Harlan.
I think it's still around. Yeah, ain't it?
He was actually in Moleville a couple years ago
with the D21, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
sure he's still got the 190 in the D21
down
there somewhere. But yeah, he had a roll cage on it and everything here. God, what's it been, like 5 years ago?
I bet it's been 5 or longer.
No paint on it, but it had the roll cage on it and been seasoned. And yeah, and it didn't run too bad for
what it was. Yeah,
exactly.
What's this one?
God, that looks like Lyle's tractor.
I don't know.
I can't see it.
Put your second pair of glasses on, Greg.
I had too much pride for that, Dan. Come on.
I'm stealing these from your album on Facebook.
Mine?
Yeah.
That looks like Lyle's tractor.
Pretty sure.
I
And
think that's
Sneaky
Lyle.
Snake.
That's Von Jurgen.
Oh man, Von Jurgens. Banata actually has a whole bunch of this stuff here. I hated
That
to see that
tractor's
tractor.
dismantled now.
What's that?
That tractor's dismantled now. Those sneaky snakes.
Yeah, the guys in Ravenna, Bradley's ended up with it, and they redid a frame. I think they kept the rear end and a few things, but Venata ended up with because it had a Drussel aluminum frame, which in the day was top notch, but things have moved on a little. And Bradley's, they redid that. Is it 3 or 4 turbos, Dan? Do you know?
I think it's 3, isn't it?
3? I don't know. It's pulled with us a couple times.
Is that suddenly psychotic one?
Yeah, they just have never completely got the bugs worked out of it.
Getting closer.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, I'm grabbing a few more. Just
okay.
You should go back in and label some of these.
Girl, I should do a lot of things, but that's all. I barely have time to breathe.
Where did the little britches
talking, Greg?
What's that?
We were talking one day, and we were sitting there. When we were running around in the late 90s and the early 2000s of what we had and what we were actually building for horsepower, we didn't have much money in those tractors back then.
Well, I tell you what, this is something I want to go around and ask everybody if they're still around. Like, how old were you guys back then, like in 2000?
I was 20.
Corey, I see for Corey Snyder, I mean, I think you're just about the same age I am.
Probably.
Because I was in my middle 20s, out there running around in Iowa pulling. I mean, we didn't realize how good we had it.
Yeah, I would have been 30 in 2000. So.
In 2000, okay.
Yeah, so we were running together. I was probably like 25, 25 to 30.
I'm just not gonna say.
Yeah, Doug. Yeah, okay.
Grandpa over here.
But I mean, what cracks me up is, I mean, and it's no slight, but I mean, they have all like this young gun stuff and all that. We were kind of, I mean, yeah, we had help for our parents, but we were out there doing it ourselves,
Yeah.
You're lucky you had help from your parents. Mine were telling me how dumb I was.
Well,
when we first started on Kurt's White, it was over at his house. And of course, that White started out getting built in his dad's hog house and then ended up in our hog house and finished and getting built. But the funny thing is that tractor, Kurt was driving truck at the time. And he came home. Remember the old bathtub frames they had on them? I had that frame cut in half. And Kurt came home and he's like, "Oh my God, what did you do?"
You just killed it.
Cut it right off with a sawzall.
I think Brian was involved in that day.
Then what it was
Corey,
a year later, and the hitch pulled out of the bottom of it.
Oh, were you there for that maneuver?
Yeah.
It didn't even pull the hitch out. It pulled the whole bottom of the rear end.
The transmission out. It actually sounded like it was going to run really well that day.
We made it a Hinton though the next night.
Yeah.
Yeah, that tractor, you didn't want to run the factory oil pump with that camshaft. So we cut the oil pump off so we still could have a tack drive. And there happened to be my father-in-law, he was helping us. He found a 510 combine laying somewhere, and he grabbed the hydraulic pump off of it. That was our oil pump. What else?
2 V-belts run it.
Yeah, had a couple V-belts on it, and we did have some dart and sleeves made for it though. That was about the highest dollar thing in that tractor.
Can you imagine if you showed up today with some of that stuff?
It kind of was like that then, but we just acted like we didn't hear nobody.
We did take the plywood off the top of the transmission though. We put
that. Oh my! Okay. You mentioned Dreesen's. That tractor ended up out west here, and I remember it back in the day. But when I actually got into looking at that thing and tearing some stuff apart, and it had a plywood deck and wood fenders and all that stuff, I was not prepared for that.
No way.
Yeah, like a T1895 or something.
But yeah, when you got close to that tractor, it was
Pretty scary.
I don't know. It just was.
It looked good from a distance, so
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked great from a distance. But you know, the other thing that always blew me away about that tractor, it's one of them that it acted like it was always on. I mean, it never had quite enough power, but that thing finished well. I mean, he got more out of that thing, you know, horsepower for what it had. He did. I mean, that thing's got quite a resume.
And they were low budget. You know, I think they won the Louisville in like 81 or 2, if I remember right, and maybe second the next year or something like that.
Yeah.
So that tractor really run. But I mean, Ed would he would go through the dumpsters and stuff, and that's the stuff he made work. You know, I mean, that's just the way they did it.
I'll never forget. We went up there to get some stuff from him, and we were running them. We were putting them John Deere 329 combine pistons in there, cutting them off a little bit, and we're like, we got to go get some rings. And he goes, "Oh no, I got rings for you." He goes, "You don't want to put any new ones in there. They're not going to work right." He goes, "These are pre-seated in the last engine. Put these used ones in there. They'll work better."
same as bearings.
Yeah, bearings. He's selling us used bearings and used rings. And
Oh yeah, just take a little emery cloth. You know, that'll be fine.
You know, he always had that accent on it, and he says, and I'm probably like 22, 3, 4, I don't know. And he comes up, puts his arm, you know, Terry, he says, you know, you got to park your car in a different garage once in a while. You know that, right? Yeah, I got you, Ed. I'm tracking with you. But he was a good old boy.
Ed Dreesen's famous saying, and it might have been a dream, whatever, but that guy talked about a 7-foot blonde every single time I ever talked to him. He goes, "If you ever find you a 7-foot blonde."
And that old Ford they had like 450,000 miles on it or something. And it was a 78 Ford Camper Special, you know, or something.
Gooseneck flatbed,
Yep.
homemade camper.
Homemade
Camper leaned a little bit to the side.
Yep. Same truck, same trailer, all the years.
Yep. Like plywood siding on the camper.
Yep. But no better guys. They pulled antiques after they quit pulling the big one, and they'd show up with a 77 and 288s, and they'd switch tires around and throw weights, and they were into it. And they always had good running tractors.
Me and Doug were up there one day. He started one of them antiquers, and Eddie was hard of hearing there at the end.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Had a little tick in her." He goes, "Pulled the pan down." He goes, "I stroked her a little too far. It was just tapping the cam." I said, "What'd you do?" He goes, "Ground a little off the cap." True story.
Oh man.
Yeah. Cool guys.
Yeah. I'll tell you another thing that surprised me. My parents kept a book of results, like from the 70s clear up the whole time we pulled. That's one thing my mom religiously did. And I didn't realize that Van Beeks, like I apparently pulled against Kurt and his brother at several of those pulls in the middle 90s.
I didn't know.
Do you guys remember that at all?
Remember that at all?
What'd they have?
Super Farm. But you know, at that time, some of the super farms would jump in the, you know, that 7,500 super or 77 or whatever it was in.
So was that the Extreme Pleasure?
You know, I can't answer that. It might have been the start of it.
Van Beeks bought that black
from Kim Joslin. And I don't remember what year that was.
It had to have been about then.
But there was is it Kevin? Is that his brother? I got to go look at something here. Hang on a second. I'll be right back.
You remember the other night when he was talking about Harry's heads, and I had a head done by Harry's Heads in 96 or 7, and at that time I was working at Gateway Computers there in North Sioux, and he was just in Riverside, and I drove down and it was right in his house garage, at that time, and there was a Post-it note on the door. It said, "Tap on the glass." So I tap on the glass, and the door comes up, and there's 3 guys working in this 2-car garage, and there is cylinder heads as far as you can see, and that's what they worked out of at that time. And boy, what a nice job they did.
He's Cobb's neighbor.
Oh yeah. But that's.
Are you talking that Dan Harry is
Yeah,
Cobb's
Dan
neighbor?
Yep, Dan Harry.
Holy
They were
smokes!
working out of their garage at that time, and like you said, there was cylinder heads standing on end as far as you could see in that garage.
Right now.
Is it?
They do a lot of tractor heads now.
Yeah.
Isn't building bullet diesel?
Yeah.
I got a couple things that blows my mind about that Dan Harry. One, talking to him, I mean, what a wealth of knowledge. But I got told that guy was like, he literally went to college to be an artist.
Yeah, really.
Really.
Yeah, I've seen some. I bought some machine tools from a guy in. I can't think of where it was at there in Iowa, Emmitsburg or something, and he had a drawing from Dan Harry. It was just phenomenal.
Huh.
And how an artist gets into porting heads, but he's damn
Still
good.
artwork. It's still artwork.
Yeah, and Brett that's there now is just picked up and carried on. You know, I mean, he's doing phenomenal work yet.
Cobby lives how far away from it?
Just down the street.
Yeah, Cobby probably just lives a few blocks from there.
From the business?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, which way, Brian?
You know where the old Mary's Hideaway is? On Riverside.
Nah, it doesn't ring a bell.
It's the only little bar there. It's about a mile maybe down the boulevard. Highway 12, I guess. You would call it.
If you this is what's crazy. If you go from Harry's and you go west about 6 blocks and maybe south about 5 or 6 blocks, that's where my wife's grandma lives.
Oh.
So like even when we were pulling out there in the 90s, we just went there and stayed and stuff. So small world.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cobby's probably delivered her pizzas. He was the West Side Pizza delivery guy for years.
That's how he built his pulling truck.
That's how he built a pulling truck. That's the cool part of Brian Cobb. He worked at Diesel Specialties for almost 30 years and then delivered pizzas every single night for West Side Pizza in Sioux City and built a pulling truck.
I'll be damned.
That's dedication, my friend.
Doug Meisinger says you were at Jameson's.
Yep.
Yeah, that was one thing pretty cool when we worked at Diesel Specialties. That first injection pump I built for the old 460, I was told that if there was used parts laying there, I could use them. So that whole pump was built with used parts out of drawers. Put her together.
Who got to decide if they were used parts? You?
Yeah. That's because he used them.
Yeah. Nope. You need all brand new parts in this one. I'm sorry.
You know, that's the sad fact is though, that's a rough thing with pulling today. You know, is they probably laughed at us back in the day a little bit. Don't get me wrong, but how could you pull that off today?
It's like everybody had 13 millimeter plungers. I couldn't find any of them used parts. I went with 12 millimeter plungers, and for that tractor, you did just fine.
Yeah. No, we had a good time. Had a lot of fun.
I remember we were in Lincoln, Nebraska with Kurt Oliver or White, and of course that was a 2-day pull, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
If I remember right.
State Fair.
So he shucked the turbo. Cobb was he's the turbo guy at Diesel Specialties, so he started to rebuild that turbo there on a flatbed trailer. And Justin Hoffman was just probably 10 years old,
maybe.
He grabbed bearings that we needed and was running all over the pits.
Took off running. He grabbed them off the trailer and took off running.
It took a while to get to him.
I got nothing for that one. That's been a couple days ago.
I'm not so sure he wouldn't do it today.
He probably would. We might be able to catch him today, though.
Uh,
I always liked pulling there. That was kind of, weird with that slope track. Always seemed like you went up that racetrack and then came back down.
You're talking at the state fair?
Yeah, they're in Lincoln.
That facility was phenomenal, and that, you don't think about it, but they had air conditioned stands and stuff. I mean, I know I heard one year I pulled there, they had an announced attendance of 9,100 people.
Wow,
no kidding.
Yeah,
that was a good
I love it. The state fair at Grand Island's great, but it ain't the same.
I remember the first time leaving there, we found out that the Cornhusker football game got over the same time we were trying to leave.
Yeah, you didn't really leave. You got stuck someplace.
Yeah, we did.
I got a third there once with the old white. I remember they used to pull the top three in there and take a picture in front of the grandstands.
Yeah.
That I should get a copy of it. It's hanging on the wall in Zoob's shop in Lamar's. That picture of the.
Really?
I think that's the only 2 times I ever placed with the old white. I got third at the state fair one year because it was hard and dry, and I had 20.8s on it yet. And then, West Point, Nebraska was kind of the same. Got second there,
right behind Blue Can.
Right behind Blue Can.
Were you right behind or a ways behind Blue Can?
No,
that's when he was diesel. It wasn't that far
he was still
behind.
diesel yet. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, really? Okay, I don't know that I ever saw him with a diesel.
Yeah,
that I remember.
That Blue Can was diesel there, right, for a while.
Super Farm diesel, right? Technically, but
yeah, 3x3.
Yeah,
and that's what they had.
Well,
that's what my old 460. We were 3x3 because we ran a lot of Nebraska bush too.
Were they 3x3 at that time?
Yeah.
Interesting. Huh. That's
Then
changed a little bit.
The old Little Britches, you know where it is now, right? Too much fun.
really.
Really?
Scheffler's. That's the Little Britches. They put the MX hoods on it.
I did not realize that. Those old tractors just keep popping up. You just never know where. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I know we were talking the other day that light limited super class. That sounds like that'd be a pretty good deal.
I'm very high on that class. I think that class has got a ton of future.
That's basically
some
what
more-
we ran.
Doug, yeah. Doug, we just need a few more people in it right now to get that class kicked off, to be honest with you.
It's huge around here in Wisconsin. It's like Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois area. It's a big class, and yeah.
I wish we could get some common ground on the rules, because everybody's got a different idea right now. Is the only bad thing, and
yeah, I think that's the only thing really holding that class back.
Exactly.
Did I see that they tried a different turbo rule last weekend or 2 weekends ago or something down Kentucky somewhere, I thought?
What was that?
I think they made it like it's not a 3x4, it's like a
3.4x4.
Yeah, 3.4x4 or something to that effect. But
yeah, that's the new NTPA rule.
Yeah, so I didn't know how that worked out, or I don't know that much about it, I guess. So
just more money. I know the alcohol guys aren't very happy about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens there, if they'll stick with that rule or not.
Biggest thing in that class is you got to keep the weight down.
Yeah.
Really, in my opinion, ruined the light super years ago, right? Every time you raise the weight, those little tractors are gone. So
Yep. Yeah, we're at 6,200, and I wouldn't want to see it go any heavier than what we are now.
Yeah.
Because what were we back in the
5,500, 57 diesel. I think 5,500 alcohol.
But then
wasn't
the
it?
roll cages, I was 6,200 with the diesel, and what did you weigh back in the day, Corey?
Oh, it changed so many times. Like first without roll cage, it was 55. Then it went to 57.
57 into the wreck.
50,
Yep.
Yeah. Then it was 58. And roll cage rules kind of changed a little bit too. Like outlaw wasn't the official NTPA two bar.
The first 99, I think they just required a roll bar of some kind.
Yeah.
Well,
I had a roll bar. I had a roll bar 1 year and then put a cage on it. And then the cage wasn't, it didn't have to have as big a diameter.
The SFI, it took quite a long time for the SFI specs to come out because I don't think they actually come out until maybe 98 at the NTPA convention.
Yeah.
Yeah. 99 season.
I don't think we put a cage on until 2000.
Yeah,
2000. I think 99 we didn't have nothing on the white. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think 2000's when we did it.
Yeah.
That's when Pobar got famous.
Went down there and got a discount because we worked on his injection pump on his Cummins. He put in his Chevy
pickup. Yep.
Oh, the little details there.
I don't know. I don't forget that stuff.
Yeah. He made quite a business out of that, though. I mean,
yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did. Did a good job, too. His stuff was beautiful.
He's a good guy.
Yep. No, he does well. And see that he ended up with Wessel's. Didn't he end up with Wessel's tractor?
Yeah.
Yep.
He ended up with Pillard. Well, do you guys remember Jeremy or Jay? Yeah, Pillard's tractor. That thing was
Playmate.
Jay Please Playmate. Yeah. I'll never forget that guy. No
He was a
fire
character.
shoes. No fire shoes. Cowboy boots. Fire suit tucked in. Big knee-high cowboy boots.
Right.
Remember that?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely I do. No, I hadn't before you mentioned it, but yes, I do now.
Well, then he was an outlaw announcer for a while.
Quite a long time, actually. Yeah, him and Bennett did a majority of it.
Mm-hmm.
Where was he from?
Crete.
Down by Crete.
Oh, Pobar did?
Somewhere close.
Well, Pillard and Pobar, they really worked together quite a bit.
Oh, really?
Well, I'm pretty sure JP's Playmate had the first frame Pobar ever made.
Yeah.
The very, very first one. Then he redid it again later on after he got fancy tools and stuff. But I think that very first tube frame that was on that, Pobar actually made it.
Yeah.
And then I think he remade it years later.
Dragging up a lot.
That roll cage rule is like being around it and running those things before cages. I mean, I get why we have them nowadays, and it's the best thing to have. But when that roll cage first came out and you were strapped in, that's when I broke a lot more stuff. It's like you were strapped in and you go with the tractor, you don't realize what you're doing, right? Like you don't back out. Before the roll cage days, and you just had a seat belt and you're sitting on a lawnmower seat, like when you rocked, you let off, right? Because you were scared. Like, yeah,
I was not equipped with that gene.
Yeah,
unless you're Rod Pasoda.
Yeah,
I had a couple pretty good deals before roll cages that, looking back, was crazy. I piled up my tractor hard enough one day at Neely, Nebraska, that I split the block in line with the cylinders.
Yeah, that picture that was shown there, my old one that she showed a little while ago. I mean, that was actually right before it was the worst ride I've ever had. Like it, I honestly thought it was going over that day, and that was down in Illinois. But yeah, that stuff didn't happen before the roll cage when I was running the thing.
Yeah, I didn't. I was young and dumb. I didn't care. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, that was bad.
Maybe my hand got like, I just bounced around so much, my hand came off throttle. I don't know, but
yeah. Well, I had a problem. My dad didn't believe in needle differentials. that proved to be bad.
Well, that Oliver didn't have a needle differential in it either, so.
Yeah.
I remember Kevin Bauer, one time we were over in, I was Rockwell City or somewhere at their fair, and he shut my fuel and air down on me. I guess I didn't think we were getting that out of control, but evidently we were. Shut us down to be safe.
Huh. What year do you think that was?
I don't know. That was with the old 460, so that's been probably 03, 04.
See, I that's funny you mentioned that. The first Bauer sled I ever remember was in Boone, Iowa. And they were still running hydros in the sled. Can't remember what year that was.
I was in Wisner, Nebraska that year when they just painted that one of the Bauer sleds. I don't remember which one it was, if a purple one or whatever, but Kevin was running it and it like whipped on me and I didn't go out of bounds. I was still in it, but put him into the guardrail out in Wisner. It was like the first year.
I remember that.
Yeah, he never pulled my kill switch, but he come down there and he's like, "You just ruined the side of my paint." I'm like,
he had a talk with you.
Didn't mean to. Not what I wanted to
do. Yeah.
I remember Denny Sykes. He had a wild ride at Wisner, and it bent his rim. And of course, Mark Omer, we can fix that. So we were sitting there in their trailer, and Mark got a bottle jack out and straightened that wheel right back out and pulled that night. I remember, talking about the Bauer sled, when we first started pulling, and you guys could probably relate, when that box hit, it was like, all right, we're going to stop here in a little bit. And then when we went to the heavy diesel super stock, I remember the first time and the box hit, I'm like, I'm going to be stopping here pretty quick. And we kept going. I'm like, this is pretty fun compared to what it used to be like.
It's amazing to think about the transformation of the sleds. If you take from what I was around in the early to middle 90s to, getting onto the Bauer sleds.
Yeah, we pulled
probably one of the biggest changes in pulling, and for the better, in my opinion.
Wasn't that the old mechanical mule we pulled in the mid 90s, I think?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That Bellhusen that was, date myself here, but wasn't that the old Westerndorf sled?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. And that was a good sled.
Hooked that quite a bit down in Illinois too.
Yes. I think that's where he was out of, but yeah, he continued a lot of the Iowa stuff. Because, in Nebraska, we had Ray Mahaffey with the Showboat and River Bell. We pulled those a lot, in that time frame. But I was probably more partial to Bellhusens.
I remember the old River Bell somewhere. I pulled that one before.
That was an interesting sled. I don't know if you remember, but it didn't have chains on the box. It actually had cables. It was something they tried, and it really didn't work out the best. But you think about it, back in the day, we pulled all kinds of different sleds, and now they're all pretty uniform. They're very, very similar.
Mm-hmm. Well, how many sleds out there do you think are Bauers now that are running around?
Well, majority. You really think about it, there's only 2 to 3, manufacturers at this time.
Mm-hmm.
What was the one in Iowa that we used to pull from Dunlap or whatever?
The Judge?
The Judge. You take off with the Judge,
they didn't
pan be 3 feet in the air.
They started
for a while, and then it come back down.
Originally, the old growly guy that had that originally, they'd start the tractors at, say they started them at 4,000 pounds, and they'd pull all night, and they'd never add a weight, change a weight, or whatever. You'd win the class if you went 90 feet in that early class. And he just chew on his cigar and collect his money and hook the tractors. he wasn't going to put no more. And then it changed hands there, and then they lightened it up. So
The
it
Bloom Boys.
Boys had it and lightened it up so it would at least you could start it and get a pull.
Then the
out.
pan came off the ground. Yeah.
Yep.
And then wasn't there one in Odo Rainmaker?
Yeah, I don't remember that one.
Don Johnson had it.
And then the Bloom Boys ended up getting another one, a different one yet that they ran for a few years, and I don't know where that ended up being. But some of those local pulls down Ida Grove, Denison, down in that area, they'd go till 4 a.m. with field tractors and farm tractors. And
Aaron says he would just lengthen the chain. I'm talking sleds here, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't need to pull till 4 a.m. I'm too old for that stuff.
Well, I remember, back in the day, it was 1:30.
Yeah.
For it to get done.
when I was a kid and we lived right outside of Hinton, we would Boy Scouts would pick up cans the next day, and man, you made a bunch of money on that. There was cans everywhere.
I remember Dennis Goodwin one time, he was telling the guys, one of the promoters there at Hinton, he says, you guys need to charge per cooler and not per head. He says, I think you'd come out money ahead here.
I seen one time I saw him haul a keg across the track over to the stands up there. Had a bushel basket and a keg, and
one like we were there afterwards, and somebody got in a fight on top of the dike. It was like 3 punches, and then the dude's rolling down the hill into the track. Remember that?
One night there was this girl that climbed over the fence, and say long necker or something was getting ready to take off, and she pulls her cowboy hat on and pulls her Daisy Dukes up, and she got some boots on, and he takes off, and she takes off running. She's going running down the track, and she wipes out and whatever, and he goes on down. But that's just always something like that going on there. It was a good time.
Hinton was wild.
Randy Hinton used to have fun at Hinton, Iowa.
Yeah.
Hey,
I'll never forget.
I don't think I ever saw Randy Hinton not have fun.
Yeah,
They always pulled the tractors down right in front of the crowd. And I remember one year that Goodwin's had a brand new Cadillac as a tow vehicle. And that's what they pulled the tractor down with. And then the first time I ever saw Redline Fever was it was at that track. And it would have been when they had the gold rims and the 80s paint, the dark red and the gold rims and gold grill.
Yeah.
And then
The Velio
he just
murals.
he just smoked everybody that night. It's like, wow, that thing really ran. But then the Pride of the Farm, was always one of my favorite ones. And yeah.
I remember the old Pro Fox.
Curtis Persons.
Yeah. He would come down to Hinton once in a while, too.
I was looking in one of these old Iowa books I got, has Curtis Persons in it. And he has like a 66 series, and it's like from 76 or 7. And he has triples on his tractor, like, dualed up twice.
Wow.
But anyway, I was looking through one of them last night, and when I was digging for stuff, and I noticed that, and I don't remember him pulling as a kid, but I always remember him with the Pro Fox and stuff. So
I remember him from the middle 90s or late 90s. He'd come down to Nebraska State Fair, and I tell you, they didn't care if they blew stuff up. They were out there to win.
seems like that tractor always run a lot of RPM. I mean, more than anybody.
They tortured that thing.
Yeah.
That was way ahead of its time.
Yeah.
For a pro stock engine, right? Like nowadays, it feels like some of these pro stocks are running like that, but back then, that thing was screaming.
They say the pros are up to like 6.5 turbo or something now.
The scary part with that, though, is we're talking about the pro stocks back when they had like 1,200 horsepower.
Yeah.
Things have changed a little.
You guys ever have like a favorite state that you'd go to or a state that you hated to pull in type of thing? crossing the borders into Nebraska, or like track wise and things like that.
Well, you tell me.
That was always our deal. It's like we went to Iowa and it was all right. We crossed that river into Nebraska and we couldn't do anything. You go down into Missouri and you couldn't do anything. It's just you pull against the same tractors and it was night and day different. Never understood it. Like it was just we got across that river over there in Iowa and it was just a bad deal for us for some reason. Like you guys talked about Hinton and Western Sweep, right? We would show up in Ottawa and I don't know how many times we'd win that first poll, go on to Hinton and like not lay an egg, but not do as great. And then you go to, was it Carroll, Nebraska?
Yeah.
And just absolutely nothing. Just couldn't hook to nothing. So
And I think Boone was the fourth day, but then I think maybe we went to Adele a few times also as the fourth night.
I think Adele was late, like a different sweep, wasn't it? Like that.
Is it? Maybe it was.
Yeah. Boone was always that last one on Sunday. And yeah, I like when you talk about Rod, I remember going to Boone one year. Would have won that Western Sweep points if Rod wouldn't have showed up the last hook of the class and decided they were going to let him pull. Because he wound up winning and I got second. But yeah, it was like, was winning the class and then he shows up and they packed the track a couple more times and away he went. But he had a lot more stuff too. So
we had a deal that Rod would come out to our hometown pull in Bridgeport and just kill us. And I don't mean by a little bit. I mean, Rod would just lay it to us. We'd go other places and we'd hold our own pretty decent. But, man, we had everybody local here. It's like, well, that guy's really good. I'm like, you know, we did really well against him elsewhere, but here he just kicked the living crap out of us.
That's the hometown curse.
Yes,
you always break something.
Yeah, but it was worse than that. Because, I mean, he was unmerciful. But that's just to me. It wasn't any place else. It was home.
Yeah, that's just hometown. That's the way it goes.
I think I always had one good pass in Mobile.
like I'd go down into Missouri and you pull against the same exact Ricky Jones, all them guys down there, same exact tractors in Iowa, and you're keeping right with them. And you'd go down into Missouri and I'd be dead last in the class. And it's like, what happened? I don't know.
Yeah, I've just had certain pulls. I've never done well at Ravenna. I mean, Lincoln, I always did really well, but go to Ravenna, hometown, it's the way it works.
I remember driving clear to Ravenna, and we had one of those aircraft starters on the front of that tractor.
It's on the
And
diesel
just a little keyway cost about $1/4 for this keyway, and it sheared at Ravenna, and no other way to start that tractor. So yeah, we had to drive all the way back home.
Yeah, but you're all the way back home wasn't that far. I drove to Ravenna one year, like the year before, we did pretty good in points. Decided to spend some money on the tractor, put roller rockers in it, and Ravenna was always the first hook, right? And this was before you did any dyno stuff. So we drug that thing, run it home, sounded great. Drug it all the way out to Ravenna and couldn't get off the line, couldn't build boost. Tried it twice. Brought it all the way back home. That's a 10-hour drive for us. Pulled the valve cover off, and it broke one of those new rocker arms right in two. That was like, yeah.
I remember
Just back to that machine shop again.
Yeah.
Cedar Rapids had a pole at the horse track or something there in Cedar Rapids racetrack, and there's all these storm warnings for eastern Iowa, and we're calling freeze up and said, you're still having a pole? Yep, keep on coming. So we're about halfway there, and we're hearing stuff on the radio, tornadoes and everything else, and freeze is like, yep, no problem, keep coming. We come pulling in there, and the track is underwater. So it was us, and I think Jeremy Paulson and his dad, they came out there too. So we went and ate at McDonald's and drove back home.
Did that in Humboldt, Iowa one time. Drove all the way out there. Jeff Ball was actually with us on that one. And we get the sunshine the whole way, and we pull into Humboldt, Iowa. And they're like, you guys know the poll's canceled, right? We're like, the sun is shining. What are you talking about? least that's only about a 4-hour drive for us. And yeah, we turned around, come back, and stopped on the way of the wayside and had a nice little picnic, and that was it.
I'll tell you what, last August, we ended up canceling the outlaw pull there in Mobile. And everybody's like, why'd you cancel it? Sunshine and everything else. And it was about 7:30 or so, and the storm hit. And we probably would have had maybe one class, maybe partially done. But, and then having to worry about everybody getting out. But yeah, that was a tough decision to make, but we made the right one. Thank God for rain insurance. So yeah, we added the light super ag class in Mobile this year. So
They didn't have much option.
hopefully we got a good sponsor now. Maybe he'll have to rodeo to be a sponsor, huh, Corey?
See how that works, Greg?
Yeah. I see.
That was always a good pull. I always enjoyed that pull out there. It was a really nice facility.
Well, it kind of sucked to have the pull there and you live 6 miles away and can't.
Yeah. That's what happens.
I have faith we'll have her blowed up by then anyway.
You want me to find you some special alcohol again?
Yep.
I don't think you've ever pulled there, have you, Greg?
Oh yeah.
In Mobile?
Yeah, you were there before. I've seen you there. I know.
Not
well,
Mobile.
I don't know if you pulled there, but I saw you there.
Honest to God, I've never been to Mobile.
Really? Ever?
No.
I just have to go. Must have been on a wall.
Yes. No, I would love to come, but we've got stuff out here that same date, unfortunately.
I think through the years in the 90s and stuff, wasn't that usually a bush pull? I think was a lot of it. I think because
you went to NTPA to Bush for a couple of years, and then Outlaw came in the scene, and then we've been Outlaw ever since.
Yep. So I think with the years when you were running around this area, I think it was a bush pull is why you never been there, because I pulled there.
Yeah. No, I
stretch with Bush.
Yeah. No, I would love, like, even this year, I'd love to come, but I think it's it's on Saturday, correct? Like,
yeah.
Is it August 3rd?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be in Cheyenne, Wyoming, unfortunately. So.
Yeah, we're kind of excited because, last year when we got rained out, we were going to have the light mods. We added that class last year and didn't get to have them. So now, we'll have the light mods and now the light super. So.
Yeah, and that light mod's a good class. That's got some neat stuff in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the guys, because I think they were going down Missouri or somewhere. And we started talking about it, and all the guys are like, out in there in Nebraska. And I'm like, we'll come see you, Doug.
Mobile's a lot closer. Yeah. Because I think they're in Gibbon the night before.
Yeah. Oh, I think there's isn't there one the night before Gibbon too? Isn't that kind of like a 3-day sweep now?
I can't answer that.
Gribner's the night before Gibbon.
There you go.
I got the schedule pulled up.
What is it?
Scribner.
Scribner.
Well, that's not very far away either.
Mm-mm.
No.
Almost a Western sweep again.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, it's not. Hinton needs to be on there.
They store grain there in the fall.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We were on that deal the other night, though, and there was a lot of talk. And then somebody put a thing on.
Some of the bleachers are in Akron and some are in Hayward.
Yeah, but somebody put a post on a while back on one of the Outlaw pages that says, what poll would you want to see back? And Hinton probably had the biggest talks on that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was always fun.
That place had bleachers?
Yeah.
Outside.
They had bleachers on the south side, and then
They
there was,
had like
there was
posts
some.
and planks in the hill on the
Yeah,
on
they
the
had
north
some
north
makeshift
side.
bleachers on the dike too, but you could never see them because there was so many people around. And the south side was
All
bleachers and
bleachers,
standing
yeah.
room and everything else, and then all the way around the corner on the end, and restrooms everywhere there.
I never forget first year going out there. Dad and I, like, we were in Ottawa the night before, and you get out to Hinton, right? And you're driving out there, and like, is this the town? Like, there's nothing here. They're having this kind of pool here. Like, this is we got to be in the wrong place, right? You get down there, and then when the hour before the poll starts, and you're like, where are all these people coming from? And everybody's got a cooler. It's like unreal.
Honest, I still don't know where everybody parked. They were like in the road ditch a mile south of town.
And a mile east.
Yeah, and
They
east.
went
Yeah.
east. That went east a full mile right alongside the
But-
road, both sides. Now,
But then you go to
Nebraska-
Carroll the next night. That's not any bigger.
Nebraska was the
Yeah.
same way because I mean, you could see cars as far as you could see out to that east side or west side out there. That whole field was parking.
I remember there at Carroll one night. Of course, we're ready to leave, and we're getting ready to leave with the truck. And my wife, she can't get out of where they park. There was people parked every which way. So my father-in-law, he was walking around trying to find paths for her to get out, so they could follow us home.
Yeah, unreal.
I got a cab over. I'll weasel right out of there.
Yeah.
Do they have polls anymore at Carroll?
No,
I don't
I
think
mean,
it's
not
done.
outlaw ones, but I mean,
It's
polls-
been several years, but honestly, Wisner's kind of taken over
Yeah,
for what that was. It's not that far away from where Carroll is.
Who's that guy that put that? Was his name Dennis Rohde, wasn't it? That put that Carroll one on?
yep.
That sounds right. Yes.
Yeah. Was he body shop guy, I believe, right there in Carroll.
There wasn't much for houses in Carroll, wasn't that just
Yeah.
about 5 houses and a
Yeah,
track
no,
on top of the hill?
Tell you what, Ravenna, though, I remember they always put on a good feed for us. I always remember that.
Town of Ravenna really gets behind that poll.
I think we always ended up downtown at Rod's deal having a big ass hot dog. You seen the menu in there? Pasota's bar. It's on the menu. Big ass hot dog.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, guys, you suppose we ought to call it a night?
You bet.
Appreciate it. It's been awesome. We probably need to get together and do this again sometime,
Well, we can all go to Rock Valley maybe or something like that.
as we should.
How's that schedule go? Is it Ottawa, Rock Valley? Is that right?
Oh, mercy.
Oh, well, Rock Valley, David City, isn't it?
Hold
Yeah,
on.
see,
Isn't
there's kind of a mess.
Okay. Albion has a couple of national classes July 9th, and then Concord the 10th, Ottawa 11, and then Rock Valley's 12 and 13.
Yeah.
And David City is also the 13th.
In Douglas, Wyoming.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is a busy weekend.
I still can't believe when you told me you pulled in Bozeman, Montana.
Yeah. In the field house. Doug, we pulled a lot of places, a lot of states. Most of them have been fun.
Didn't they used to pull in the old there at Iowa State at the Hilton Coliseum? I think they had
I
some
think so.
indoor pulls in there.
I think so. Never did it myself, but
They didn't
I know
see
there was a
all
couple.
didn't they, in the dome
Yep.
Yeah.
I think so.
back 70s or something?
Yeah.
Now, didn't you guys go to Arizona or something, or New Mexico or Dan or?
both.
Well, you
No,
went
we
to California,
pulled in
Greg.
Arizona a couple times last year. We're heading back. Well, at least I'm heading back in October this year.
At one time, I heard rumor that Outlaws were going to do something in Las Vegas, but I haven't heard nothing about that for.
Yeah, that was kind of Ron's baby, and it's got close, but never finalized.
Yeah.
Now, when did you guys go to California, Greg?
That would have been in 07. Well, I take that back. Probably 05, 6, and 7. My parents pulled out there for like 3 years in a row. I went out once to that. They had I can't remember what the heck the farm show is out there, but the Tulare Ag Expo or something is a big deal there. I mean, I even got to meet Sasha and the that Kloss team with the Allison. They actually come out for that. It was something. But it's not really. I mean, they still do it, but it's not the same as it was back then.
You know, it's just crazy. You just think of tractor pulling mainly to be, you know, in our area in the Midwest, but it's all over.
People don't realize there's stuff Idaho, Utah. There's quite a bit of stuff in Wyoming. Colorado's got a lot of stuff. A couple pulls in Arizona. Texas is blowing up again. You know, it's all over.
They won't let us into California with the cab over.
You know, you might be surprised. Probably not down south.
Yeah.
Seems like pulling kind of goes in streaks, though. You know, it'll grow for a while and then kind of set back a little bit, and then it grows again for a while.
It just depends on how the rodeo circuit's going.
That's right.
Well, for you, the rest of us are pretty well committed to not ride ponies, but yeah.
That's why I steer wrestled. I didn't like riding them. You just ride them a little ways and get off.
Does that like fall off or?
No, you just jump off them. Just get off them. Even if you miss the steer, you still jump off of them. You don't want to see what's going to happen at the other end.
Yeah. But no, right now you look at what's going on in Florida. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on the East Coast. I mean, Poland's alive and well right now.
Oh, definitely.
Well, we just got to get Mammon out and get Dougie to build one and Cobby to get another one, and then we'll be good. I just found Dougie a rear end tonight. It's about 2 miles from his house, so he's got to start.
I don't have any excuses for Doug. He's on his own there.
Yep.
Kid's not out of school yet.
Yep. Oh man, come on. But
He's in college. She's close enough.
Yeah. Student loans. That's what that's
Yeah,
for.
that's right.
My name's attached to that.
yeah. So, all right. Well, guys, I appreciate you coming on, and yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you guys this summer.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
We'll be
all right.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It's fun.
All right. Thank you.
See you
Great seeing you guys.
Yeah, bye.